So as you know, it would be very advantageous if these bills were to pass. Affordable housing. So the state and HCD, Housing and Community Development, are pointing their fingers at you, the city councils and the counties, and saying it's your fault that affordable housing isn't being built. They believe that there's a need for 1 million more homes to be built in the state of California in the next 10 years. They think that your fees, your planning, your zoning, the NIMBYism is what's causing the lack of housing to be built.
The City of Riverbank regular City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority meetings are now in session. Today is Tuesday, March 28th, 2017. The time is 6 p.m. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have someone from the Riverbank Ministerial? Nope. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Council Authority Member Cal Campbell.
You just call me?
Yes.
He said something to me, so I didn't hear it. Here.
Council Authority Member District 4 Darlene Barber Martinez.
Here.
Council Authority Member District 2 Cindy Fossey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Chair Leanne Jones-Cruz.
Here.
Mayor Chair Richard D. O'Brien.
Here. There'll be no changes to the agenda tonight. Conflict of interest. Any council or authority member or staff who has a direct conflict of interest in any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare their conflict at this time. Seeing no conflict, we're going to start with item 1.1, which is an update of the Stanislaus Consolidated Fire Protection District Board of Director Representative. Michelle.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. A few things. Engine 26 in Riverbank continues to be the busiest in our entire district. That's probably not a surprise to many of you. We are very excited as a board to begin moving forward with the discussions for the Crossroads West development, and we have formed an ad hoc committee. That way two of us can get together and start discussing development fees and updating those from several years ago and what that looks like in next steps. The chief did extend an invitation to Cal Campbell to join us just because you've sat with us on interview panels before, but we would definitely like to make it an official position with a council member joining us for those meetings if that's something you guys would like to be open to. We did have our first meeting March 20th and just discuss what this looks like for the department and possible next steps. And I believe we'd like to have another meeting next month, but we haven't picked a definitive date. We'd like to have some more attendees present at our next meeting. Unfortunately, Chief Daly has extended his, tendered his resignation effective April 21st, and so the board is also in another recruitment. Thankfully, the last recruitment we conducted is still active, and so we're able to continue to look at that pool of candidates, as well as the position is listed on our website as being open until filled. And so the board is moving forward in those steps as well. So a lot going on right now.
When was Consolidated formed?
2005.
And how many chiefs have you had during that time?
Probably more than I care to count.
I have a quick question on
Sure.
on your ad hoc and your do you have anyone from our planning department in that committee meeting?
Not yet, not formally or officially. The invitation was extended to the city manager, to John Anderson, and the more the merrier, we feel at this point.
Okay, great.
So we'd love to have everybody there if at all possible. We provided an agenda and would like to continue agendizing each meeting so that we can get the most out of our time.
If you're inviting everyone.
Everybody.
Eddie?
Please.
Any questions of Michelle?
Think of any later, please send me an email or give me a call.
It's just now you have to do two major things, especially get another chief, one that'll last longer than a year.
That's our hope.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Public comments. No action can be taken. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council LRA Board. Individuals' comments will be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes per person, and each person may speak once during this time. Time cannot be yielded to another person. Under state law, matter presented during the public comment period cannot be discussed or acted upon. For record purposes, state your name and city of residence. Please make your comments directly to the City Council LRA Board. Are there any public comments? You have to go up.
First of all, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank the City Works Department for the corner of Prouty and Oakdale Road where they finished that wall that got smashed. In my little electric scooter, I went by this morning and saw the sawhorses, the cones, and if anybody would crash into there again, they would destroy City of Riverbank property. And on my first run out down Oakdale Road in my 4-mile-an-hour scooter, I saw some of the crew working, but I was over on the the west part of the street. Also on that run, I was by that one church place, and I got acquainted with Deputy Sheriff Dominic. I only asked him by his first name, and he was very courteous and polite, and I said, if you can, tell whomever that whoever those guys were that put the dirt on the sidewalk, it made it quite difficult for a person like me riding a small scooter that this gentleman sold me some years ago. And so I chose to ride in against traffic until I saw the police officer, deputy from, Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department. And he was very courteous. He backed his vehicle up so that I could go in the parking lot. We had a very nice conversation. He's a very nice young man. So I understand the police chief's here tonight, or your sergeant. Will you please give Dominic a big attaboy from John Seaman on this red four-wheeled scooter with 3 American flags. I'll let him know. Thank you. Are you cheap, or what's the deal with
Please talk directly to the council, Mr. Seaman.
Oh, excuse me. Pardon me.
You're addressing us.
Okay, that's the Prouty thing and the nice officer, and that I'm done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further public comments? Seeing none, we move forward to the consent calendar consisting of item 3A, waive readings, item 3B, approval of March 14th, 2017, City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority minutes, item 3C, a resolution to authorize the expenditure of $2,400 from the Enterprise Fund for the purchase of a key log for the Riverbank Community Pool. Do I have anyone who wishes to pull any of the items? Do I have anyone from the public wishing to comment on any of the items? Seeing none, I bring it back to the City Council for recommendation.
I make a motion we approve the consent calendar as read, items 3A, 3B, and 3C.
I second.
We have a motion to approve and a second on the consent calendar.
Council Authority Member Cal Campbell.
Yes?
Council Authority Member District 4 Darlene Barber Martinez.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 2 Cindy Fossey.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Leanne Jones-Cruz.
Yes.
And Mayor Chair Richard D. O'Brien.
Yes. Item 5.1, conduct the first reading by title only and introduction of a proposed ordinance, amending the Riverbank Municipal Code by repealing in its entirety Chapter 96, Trees of Title 9, General Regulations, and substituting it for a new Chapter 96, Trees.
Thank you, Mayor. John Anderson, our consulting planner, is going to present this item this evening. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, John Anderson, contract planner with the City of Riverbank, here tonight to talk about street trees. This is actually a collective effort of both planning as well as Public Works and Public Works Administration. The idea was, in essence, to kind of rewrite. Actually, it didn't start out that way. It was just started out as a red line to redline the existing city street code that was adopted initially back in 1967 and kind of bring it current. Well, that kind of evolved into something a little more complex in that we ended up borrowing some of the things we liked from the City of Modesto's street tree ordinance as well as the City of Patterson's street tree ordinance. And then the attorneys got involved. Okay, sorry, Nubia. But anyway, then the attorneys got involved and they had to make sure that they brought in a lot of the new and current case law relative to liabilities of ownerships, et cetera. So what you have before you tonight is kind of a refined street tree ordinance for the city that brings it current We're repealing the existing street tree ordinance in favor of this new language that we're suggesting tonight, and I've kind of highlighted some of those issues in the staff report on page 2. There is a more consistent process. There's appeal authority through to the Planning Commission if you choose to appeal a decision that's made at staff level, and then also provides more definitive treatment for new subdivision street trees that will be planted according to a street tree plan, and then of course specifies the number of street trees per lot, and if you have a corner lot, and how many street trees will be required for corner lots as well. So after having said that, this is a public hearing. It's been noticed. This is the first reading of the ordinance as presented, and I'm here. Kathleen Cleek also participated in this. Donna is not here, but it was basically Kathleen, Donna, and I that worked on this project collectively together along with the City Attorney's Office. So are there any questions behind what we're trying to present to you folks tonight?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so I do know that the trees that we had to replace on Crawford,
Yes.
and there were some developments where people had to take them out of their yards. This
Yes.
addresses that issue so that we don't have to go through that again.
Now the trees along Crawford were installed originally as part of the Crossroads project. So they were installed by the master developer. Those street trees are part of an L&L district, a landscape and lighting district. So they're managed specifically through that district. So when we went through and we corrected the tree species, which is really the issue that we had with that, it was all funded through the landscape and lighting district and assessments that were collected out in that area. The idea behind getting a street tree planting plan is that you're right, that we would eliminate those types of long-term liability issues that we would have with public works improvements such as curb, gutter, and sidewalk and storm drain improvements. Fortunately, with the Crawford Road project, we caught it early enough, and we had some work to do. There was some sidewalk renovation that had to take place, but we were able to preserve the integrity of the curb and gutter, and the street section, and that was a very good thing because we saved a lot of money by doing that. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just clarity on 96.19 for penalty for violations. The very last two words in the line after it says what the different fines are going to be is and so forth. And to me, that seems a little bit vague. What does the so forth mean? Where does it go?
Well, I think the idea if the fine, if they went for, let's say, first offense, second offense, third offense, if they went for a fourth offense, then I guess they would apply the similar amount. So it would be
Be the same
doubling,
$500
doubling,
then?
yeah, same
Okay.
500, I think, is what was intended. And then the city attorney's office added that next paragraph that talked about the city may enforce any of the provisions of this chapter through nuisance abatement and or any other administrative remedies available under this code. So that was added by the city attorney.
I think the mode of thought there is that if you continue to double the fine over and over again, it gets to a point where it's so impossible to pay that it's not useful anymore.
Again,
Yeah.
and so forth is a vague
Right.
term. It has
Yeah.
a lot of meanings.
Yeah. So we will reflect it in the record that it's to mean 500.
There was one other change that I want to make. I was just looking through it while I was sitting in the back audience, but on page 2 of 8, 96.04, plan administration, the first line starting with the city manager to administer the street tree, not street treat, so it should be tree program in accordance to the provisions of this chapter. So that spelling error needs to be corrected.
Other than that, John, I think you guys put together a very good plan.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
This is a public hearing. I open it for public comment.
Todd McRitchie, Riverbank. I went through it and I thought it is a very good plan also. I had a couple questions. It says it's on 96.07B, the city manager shall issue et cetera, et cetera. Now, I don't think the city manager should be issuing permits for a tree. I think that should be Public Works or whoever is, that's their bailiwick. Because if that's going to happen, they're going to come into Mr. Scully, and then he's going to refer it to the tree guy anyhow. And in so doing, we've just added another month to the permit process. The other one that bothers me is it says even with a valid permit, the utilities, can't even read my own writing, are prohibited from topping street trees. Now, it's sort of a catch-22. The utility is responsible if the tree's touching the line and it blows apart. Okay, but you're saying they can't top it. And so if they can't top it, then who is? Well, it's going to come back to the city. So the city's going to top it, then they're going to have to go out to whoever the guys are that do our trees. And in so doing, they're going to have a cost to that. So if PG&E does it with a permit, then it's free. They're going to do it for nothing. If not, then we're going to do it. We may not do it right. There's some liabilities in here. Plus, it's going to cost us money if we go to the Grover or somebody like that. I remembered it finally. Grover or somebody like that to do it. So I think, I didn't look into it all. I didn't have much time to do it, look into it and see all the ramifications. And I'm sure that it can be explained. But it just seemed to me that it was sort of a catch-22 and that PG&E is responsible if there's anything, if tree falls on the lines, but yet they can't do anything to remediate it, and if we do it, it's going to cost us money. So, the other thing is, do we have these permits with all the stuff in them already? It seems that we run into problems with the city that we have to get a permit, then you go to get the permit, and the items that are supposed to be in the permit aren't there, or they don't pertain, or they don't do this and that. Now maybe this new thing will take care of that, but it's a real pain in the neck to say, okay, I need a permit, and they say, well, gee whiz, we're not quite sure what to do here. And, well, we have to come in for a permit, but there's nothing behind it. So I think that if we're going to have permits, that all the baloney has to be in there, so when somebody comes in, we can hand it to them, and that's the end of it. Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Any further public comment? Seeing none, I bring it back to the city council. I close the public hearing. You made some very valid points on the utilities. One thing you don't want to have grant the utilities is permission without notification. So I believe we'll look at that language and make sure it's clear, but I don't want PG&E to go and remove a tree because they don't like it near. And they did that just recently. So we want to prevent them from being able to, and this is my interpretation of what I read. As for the granting authority being the city manager, he can have a designated representative. We'll take a look at that language too. To me, it's like the captain of any ship. He's responsible, and if the ship sinks, he's responsible even though it was Fireman Jones that pulled the plug. So we'll take a look at the language on those and report or clean it up or annotate it by the second reading of the ordinance. Other than that, I believe that I thought it was a good adaptation for the trees, and I believe we do need to beta test anything that we now institute from the city, making sure that we don't delay it for 6 months to cut down a tree or to plant a tree or $2 million water bill. So we'll do beta testing on that. Any comments from the City Council before we move forward?
I still have one more question, I'm sorry. This does not address in a development on private property if it's deemed that the wrong tree has been planted, like the trees that we had to get rid of,
it doesn't.
right? It doesn't,
No,
okay.
we don't dictate to private properties. Well, in landscaping, you'll tell what it basically is, but the type of tree, I don't believe we do. I know we do setbacks, I know we do others, but
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, John Anderson, contract planner. There's actually two issues here. Yes, there is a street tree planting plan that would be required as part of the private development that staff would have the ability to review it. And if those trees are considered to be public trees, street trees as defined, yes, we'll be very careful to indicate which trees we feel are appropriate, which means, quite frankly, we've got some additional work to do on our side, one of which is to refine the approved street tree list we have so they can pick from it. And the other thing that Mr. McRitchie was getting at is something that we're already commissioned to take care of, and that is to make more permits available online. So in here we're talking about a tree permit. The idea is to make the tree permit available online. That would be pretty nice, pretty easy, very convenient, with all the detailed information needed, embodied within that permit. So there's no guesswork, and not trying to guess what does the city need in order to review this permit from us. So that's a good technique to move forward with an electronic permit.
But if someone wanted to plant a sycamore, which is John, if someone wanted to plant sycamore in their development, we don't like it, but it's not really a prohibitive type of a tree, but it is destructive.
Well, I mean, it's going to really depend on a finite list that the city staff ends up developing, working with city manager and his assignees, so to speak, as to what's acceptable and what's not. And really taking a look at what impact they may have in the future on infrastructure. I mean, that's what we're trying not to do, is to double up on sidewalk improvements or curb gutter improvements down the line as these trees mature. And that was one of the problems that we had along Crawford. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. All right, do I have a motion from any of the council members to approve the presentation or the ordinance as presented for the first reading, with the second reading to be conducted on April 25th?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion to accept the reading and the public hearing, and a second.
Council Authority Member Cal Campbell.
Yes?
Council Authority Member District 4 Darlene Barber Martinez.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 2 Cindy Fossey.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Leanne Jones-Cruz.
Yes.
And Mayor Chair Richard D. O'Brien.
Yes. New business, item 6.1, approval of the 6-month strategic objectives, March 20th to September 15th, 2017.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. On March 20th, the City Council held the first of the 2017 biannual strategic planning sessions. The sessions are intended to allow Council and staff and the public to the opportunity to discuss and prioritize projects and objectives for the upcoming year. The project includes a SWOT analysis, team building, brainstorming session on potential objectives and strategic goals that serve the 3-year goals adopted by the City Council. So we had that session out at the LRA. It was well attended, at least by city staff and council, and we discussed in detail sort of our workflow for the next 6 months and how that workflow should connect to the 3-year goals identified. There were some amendments to the goals so that we could kind of more clearly define and include public safety as a key priority for the city. Those 4 goals are attract, develop, and retain quality staff. Sorry, that's right, there's 5. Attract, Annabelle's gone this evening, and usually she's my clicker. And I don't think my clicker is working, actually. Is it on this side?
Working here?
Oh, is it? Huh. Well, that's okay. So let's go through the goals. Achieve and maintain financial stability and sustainability, attract and develop and retain quality staff, maintain and improve the city's infrastructure and service delivery systems, expand economic development opportunities for businesses, and enhance public safety. So essentially what occurred is the group broke up into subsegments, and each subsegment came up with a list of goals which we all discussed and council agreed on in a consensus manner to work on for the next year. Those goals have been posted on our website for the public to take a look at and provide feedback on. They include when, who's going to be responsible for delivering the objective, what the actual objective is, and the status and timeline, which we'll be doing periodic monthly updates on to let council know where we're at. So I'm not going to step through each and every one of these because we've discussed them at length, but you can see there that for the financial sustainability and sustainability, you have a number of different objectives that relate to either bringing council ideas for new revenue, looking at a utility billing process, and obviously a lot of our cost here at the city has to do with labor contracts, and so we're in the process of that currently. The next goal, attract, develop, and retain quality staff. So again, a lot of these objectives have to do with human resources and or components that have to do with our personnel rules. We're going to be putting a real emphasis on cross-training in the next 6 months and kind of identifying where that's appropriate within our different departments. Maintain and improve the city's infrastructure and service delivery systems. So, not surprisingly, CIP, phone systems, big ticket items that end up being large projects for the staff. We're going to be spending quite a bit of time looking into different grant projects to help fund these, to try to take some of the burden off of our enterprise and general funds, looking at additional staff, oversee completion of the water meter installation, which is actually very close to being completed. Maintain and improve the, this is just continued along. Expand economic development opportunities for business. So there's a number of these here. There's some discussion about the East Riverbank Industrial Master Plan and phasing that project. Meeting with local businesses has been going on for the last number of sessions. Implement online database of commercial properties, which we're working on, and there's some permitting and surveying that have to do with the LRA that are going to be analyzed if needed. In addition, we have some, these are long-term projects that have been going on for a very long time, so I apologize to keep bringing them up, but we have a permitting process. We are looking at right now, actually, have been for some time, how we can expedite commercial and retail development through making our permitting process more quick and easy. So we're looking into online solutions. We're hoping and working very hard towards getting to LAFCO by September for the Crossroads West project, and so we'll continue to move forward on that. The next one is enhanced public safety. So at the April 11th meeting, we will be doing a workshop with our city attorney's office, putting it on for the recreational marijuana initiative that passed this last November. Council will have a number of directions/decisions to make about that law. The police department is going to work on putting together a junior police academy as well as a critical incident training for city staff. We're also going to work on with our legislators, because as we all know, there's a number of issues that we've had with care homes in town, and we're going to work with the state to try to figure out if we can get some more clarity about what the home operator's responsibilities are. And then we're also going to work on, as we all know, we're low on staffing at our sheriff's department, and we're going to look into COPS grants and whether that's a feasible option for Riverbank. Next strategic planning session will be October 21st of this year, and by that time we will no doubt have a whole nother list of things to put to take off and put on. So I know I went through it quickly for the members of the public, but if anybody wants to talk in greater detail about it, I'm available anytime. So, and I'd be happy to answer any questions from the council or the public. Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public on this presentation?
Pain in the neck, I know, but on the first one, the first DUA, it talks about explore options to transition to monthly billing. Now, we were told here that we had had monthly billing either 2 months at a time, but with two DUAs in there, two different things, just like you do on property taxes, where you can pay half of it now and half of it later. Okay, that was promised in January, and now we're saying that it's going to happen in May.
May I clarify what we said? That we'd have it ready to go at the beginning of the next fiscal year. That we will show it to you before that.
No, the original thing was we were going to have these monthly billings as of January. The January billing was going to be a bi-monthly, but in two parts, that we can mail in one in the first part and one in the second. That's it. It's not next fiscal year. It was this January. It's in the minutes. Look at it. Okay, the second thing is on the infrastructure set. At any rate, it's about the completion of the water meter installation. This whole thing, I'm not going to blame anybody here. We have a new city manager and so on and so forth. But if we ever do something like this again, there's got to be some accountability. This thing was supposed to have been done, and it isn't done. And it's just not right. It's supposed to now be done by September 1st. This was haphazard to start with. When they did it, they started putting the meters in, okay? Then they came back and dug up all the holes again and made bigger ones in the lawns. Okay, if you had it in your driveway, then this is another thing. Okay, so some people had it in their driveways. Some of them were done. Some of them weren't done. Some of them were sunk so that you could trip over them. There just seems to be no accountability, or nobody's watching this thing. But this has been an absolute mess. And it should have all been done long before now. And we're still sitting there without stuff being done. Again, I'm not blaming anybody here. It's just the way it is. But the contractor should have been held to higher standards. And I think if we ever do another one of these projects, that we should make sure that the standards are there for sure. Okay, economic development. On economic development, I think it's great what you're doing there. One thing that you sort of went around that might have been helpful is to work with the Chamber of Commerce, because they have a lot of businesses and they may know some that had certain questions or something that might have been helpful to the city. So those are my things, and it's not that I'm mad that I'm leaving, but I have another meeting to go to. So it's not you guys, it's just I have to go. Thank you.
Mayor, may I address?
Mayor, can I make a comment about water meters?
This is public comment time now.
I don't know.
Yes, sir. Just come on up to the microphone and speak. State your name and go forth.
I forgot. John Seaman. I reside on Chancellor Way in a board and care home, and the water meter guys were out several months ago and did a very tidy job in that part of Riverbank. Up and down Chancellor Way, the cross streets, maybe on Noby Drive, in the general neighborhood. 'Cause I'm able to view, ladies and gentlemen, easier from my scooter than you are in an automobile or a truck. And I give whomever, was it city employees that installed those big contract? Well, he needs a pat on the back, at least in our part of it. Thank you.
Any further public comment? So then bring it back to the city council.
Mayor, may I comment?
Yes.
I am in the process of setting up a meeting with the chamber to work, Sean and I, to work with them on business opportunities and bringing back some events downtown. So we are in the process of doing that, Scott. Thank you.
Any further comment? Just a note on that, we've invited the chamber along with my visits, and with mixed results. All right, this is to accept.
We are looking for approval tonight, Mayor.
I'll make a motion that we approve item 6.1.
I'll second.
A motion to approve and a second on item 6.1.
Council Authority Member Cal Campbell.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 4 Darlene Barber Martinez.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 2 Cindy Fossey.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Leanne Jones-Cruz.
Yes.
And Mayor Chair Richard D. O'Brien.
Item 6.2, recommend City Council support the approval of the 5 City of Riverbank Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality CMAQ program project for fiscal year 2018-19 and fiscal year 2019-2020, recommended by the Stanislaus Council of Government, STANCOG, and approved by the STANCOG Policy Board.
Thank you, Mayor. Our Development Services Administration Manager, Kathleen Cleek, will be presenting this item this evening. I'd like to say, as she's coming up here, that she really has kept a sharp eye to make sure that Riverbank is getting its fair share of transportation money, and really nothing shows it quite like the amount of CMAQ projects we ended up getting this round. So we'll go to her and she can share what we've been approved for.
Thank you, Sean. Good evening, Mayor and members of the Council. So tonight I'm going to go through the congestion mitigation air quality CMAQ projects for fiscal year 2018, 2019, 2019, 20 that we have been approved for. So the policy board has it finally went to the policy board, and this has been going on for a couple of months, and so happy to finally be able to tell you that it is approved and we can move forward. So the recommendation tonight is to recommend that the City Council support the approval of the 5 City of Riverbank Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program projects for fiscal year 18-19 and 19-20, which were recommended by the Stanislaus Council of Governments and approved by the STANCOG Policy Board on March 15th. So CMAQ eligible projects must meet 3 basic criteria: be a transportation project, generate emissions reductions, be located in or benefit a non-attainment or maintenance area. Projects also must meet the conformity provisions of the Clean Air Act and the regulations governing transportation conformity in Title 40 of the Code of Federal Regulations. So CMAQ project applications, the city submitted 5 CMAQ applications totaling a little over $1.5 million. All 5 of our projects applications were reviewed and recommended to the policy board by STANCOG CMAQ Evaluation Committee. The STANCOG Policy Board approved the project applications at their March 15th meeting. Out of the $2.8 million recommended projects for small, medium agencies, Riverbank received a little over 1.5, so we received 54% of that allotted money. So this is really hard for the public to see, but there are some, it's in your, with your staff report, but we do have some in the back that you can go ahead and take and you can review that list that. The highlighted ones are Riverbank's. The first part is the small and medium cities, and then the second is the large and the transit cities. And those are a list of all the projects. So the first project that we was accepted was a traffic flow improvements at First and Patterson intersection. Right now when the train is there and it's stopped traffic for a while, people are driving through the dirt there to get from one end to the other. So we're looking on making some improvements there. Sidewalks, have a bike path that can continue on through, along with a little pork chop so that the cars can get through there. So hoping that will help with some traffic. Also, pedestrian access, sidewalk infill on the east and west sides of Roselle Avenue over the MID Canal. Currently, you have to go out into the street. There's no sidewalks or connectivity. So what we'll be doing is putting sidewalks all the way through on both sides and have a crosswalk that'll go over through Roselle and connect over to Crawford Road. Alternative fuel vehicles. We're in need of some vehicles that are up to their mileage, and especially our Parks Department. We're getting, right now we have enough funds for 4 vehicles. 2 would go down to Public Works. They need some flatbeds, and I think it's a F-350. Parks is also going to be getting a vehicle, and they're also getting the cargo van there at the bottom is what the building maintenance and parks need to be able to keep their tools and the playground equipment, things that they work on. So we're also looking at the air board for some funds. If we can get matching funds, we may be able to utilize and get even more vehicles. And also, we put in for an active transportation to actually do the whole side of Patterson where the railroad tracks are. That one did not, we weren't approved for that. So what we did is we took a small portion, and this is from 3rd to Terminal, and we put in a CMAQ application. We couldn't put in anything over 400,000. That was the threshold for these applications. So we weren't able to put in for the whole thing, but we put in for a portion. We're going to try and work with the railroad to try and get this one area done, hoping that they'll see that it's beneficial, and eventually we can move forward and get the right-of-way we need to finish up that project. And the last project here is a Class 2 bicycle striping along Roselle Avenue, and that will go from Patterson to Crawford. It'll be similar to what we did on Claus Road. So are there any questions or comments?
Any questions, comments of Kathleen? Any comments from the public on these projects? Seeing none, I bring it back to the council for a recommendation.
I make a motion that we accept the item 6.2 as stated.
I second.
We have a motion to support and approve the 5 CMAQs and a second.
Council Authority Member Campbell.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 4 Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Council Authority Member District 2 Fossey.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chair Jones Cruz.
Yes.
And Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes. Thank you. Good job, by the way.
Yeah, hard work. Well accomplished. Thank you.
And we expect more in the next time. Improvements, right?
Yes. Improvements to the city.
Hey, comments and reports from item 7.1 from staff comments, please.
Thank you, Mayor. 3 quick updates this evening. I was going to update on the wall, or Michael was, but our member of the public has done that for us, so we can skip that. Thanks to Michael and Public Works for making that a priority. John Anderson, who's left, but let me know earlier, is the notice of preparation for the EIR document on Crossroads West has been issued and sent out to all agencies that should be commenting on it. So that's really the kickoff step for the EIR. Now all of your statutory timelines start to move, which is really good news for the project. That is all I have this evening. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Fossey.
Nothing at this time.
Councilmember Campbell.
Just like to say, come out and support the 3rd annual Got Color Run on April the 15th this year at Jacob Myers Park at 8 o'clock. It is a fun run. You don't have to run in it. They need people to throw the paint on you, the dry material. It's not really paint. I've done it a couple years. It's a real blast. We have a good time. The runners run, and it makes some money to help the Parks and Recreation Department. See you out there.
Thank you. Councilmember Barbara Martinez.
Love Riverbank is April the 29th. Plans are being made right now. You can go online to loveriverbank.org and sign up for our many, many projects. And if you have any projects that you would like to suggest that, we take care of in the city, you can put it on the website. I participated in our opening of the season for our baseball and softball. I threw out the first pitch. Yay, it was so exciting. I got to keep the ball. And so, I just want to say come out and support our young ones that are playing in the Little League at Castleberg Park. And, it's that time of year. We're starting to get warm now, so you want to come out and enjoy our beautiful parks that we have throughout the city. And I also enjoyed reading in Read Across America, and we had sessions at throughout Crossroads and Elementary School and also Riverbank Unified School District. It was a lot of fun. So I enjoyed that, and I encourage everyone to, just read to young folks so they can continue to learn how to read and stay in school. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Jones-Cruz, please.
I'm good for this evening. Morning.
She doesn't want to speak, but she does have feedback. While I enjoy having these short meetings, we have some significant work ahead of us in the next year, and I'd like to start cutting in some of our major works. I know we'll be talking about marijuana at our next meeting, and in that we have to be aware that 60% of the voters approved this marijuana initiative, and we have to take that into account, whether we like it or not, in all the aspects from either the homegrown through controls within our SOI, or is it just going to be within our city limits? And do we allow manufacturing dispensing, and or grows? And the Churchill White has an excellent paper out. I'd like to have that distributed. If you haven't seen it, I'd like to have that distributed, so we'll be through some of the staff too, to make sure that when we talk about it at the next meeting, we understand what we're going. Also take a look at what the city of Houston has done. Was it Houston? Waterford. Waterford has done in their homegrown. We have to be able to support what our voters and residents want, despite some of our own personal beliefs. We also have in a transfer possibly of the RIC, and they need that to be in the forefront at every meeting. While we're working on the exhibits, who's doing what when, and when we can expect any updates in the conclusion of each exhibit, and how we're handling the state regulatory agencies that are involved. I also want to start looking at an RFP, as long as we as a council have to agree of how we're going to do this master developer or planner or not for the industrial complex as we transition, and determine what or when we need certain items. I want to remind everyone of some of the significant legislation coming through that we should stay abreast. I know Churchill White does a good job excellent job of providing analysis. I'd like to have their analysis of Hertzberg 231, which is the stormwater, which is very important to the city of Riverbank and to most cities and communities, as well as, I forget what the bill is, but it is exempting school districts from stormwater runoff and how that's going to affect our stormwater as we transition or move forward. I was going to mention the broken wall, but I don't need to. It's not ugly. So with that, I think we'll go into closed session. Item 8, 8.1, conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code, Section 54957.6, agency representative Sean Scully, city manager, employee organization Riverbank miscellaneous employees, and Riverbank mid-management bargaining units. At this time, anyone from the public may comment on our closed session. You have 5 minutes to make comments before we go into closed session. Any public comment? Saying none, we adjourn now for closed session. The regular City Council LRA meeting is now reconvened from closed session. Item 9, report from closed session. Item 9.1, report from closed session. Item 8.1, conference with labor negotiators. Direction has been provided to staff. At this point, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you and have a good evening.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Don't leave, he's going to take a copy of that.
So I'll leave this for you to
Thank you.
but it'll probably be tomorrow, right?
Too much, I'll trade seats with you. I won't hear it out of my left ear.